Hey, Christopher, can you hear me? Good. All right, I'm using a different microphone, I guess. I forgot to set mine up. I'm going to wait a little bit and see if more people come in. I first posted the wrong link. Well, the correct link, and then I deleted the live stream by mistake. So I don't know if people are waiting there or what. It's not really important that other people are in the room. This is last minute, just based on some stuff I'm reading in Facebook group for the Parrot Anafi official owners. So decided just to go live and make it quick and simple. Christopher H., do you have an Anafi? Oh, the latest. Hey, Cigar Nation Warriors, the latest on the FAA. I think that's a whole topic that's a whole nother discussion in itself. I'll go through and give some shout outs as we go along, but just going to wait and see if more people come into the room, but this will be recorded and saved. And this is just from being in the Parrot Anafi group, the official owners group. You're reading a lot of people saying that their Anafis are falling from the sky for no reason. There's always a reason. Your car doesn't just crash for no reason. Things always have a reason. So that's what I wanted to make this video for, is just taking precautions and being responsible. So many ways you can prevent the falling from the sky from not happening if this is not a firmware related issue, which I totally don't feel like it is a firmware related issue. But it's very possible that could have something to do with it, but I think more device related. But that's also what I want to touch base on. While I'm waiting a few more minutes here. Hello, Parks and Tech. Thank you, Cigar Nation Warriors, Christopher H., for getting in here early. The Drone Ranger. Nature Love. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started at it. You guys can talk amongst yourselves, make comments, whatever you like. But again, this is all about the Anafis falling from the sky for no reason. As I said, there is always a reason. You just need to find out what that reason is. And I'm reading several posts where people are saying it falls out of the sky for no reason. There's no video documentation to be shown in these posts, and they're not stating what device they're using. It's very important, at least I think so, that you state what device you're using. If you're going to blame it on firmware and you think it's really no reason, say that they're saying that they just did the update and it crashed, it fell out of the sky for no reason. But it's also very important to state what device you're using. Usually you'll find that it's with some drones or quads, it's mostly Android related. I'm using iOS devices. I have no problems. Mine's flying great. There's some other guys I know using iOS devices. Theirs are flying great. There was one I read that was an iOS device. It was an iPad. Perhaps there's still an issue there with the iPads. But my main point is things you can do to help you and also help other people who see the posts, maybe give you answers as to what happened. And one example, if you are in the Parrot Anafi official owners group on Facebook, there's one guy, he does have a video, and he's flying about, and all of a sudden you see it just kind of wobble, and it looks like he's going to gain control, and then all of a sudden starts wobbling again and just takes a complete tumble and falls for its death. When he retrieved it, I forgot how high he was. He was up there a good ways, but when he retrieved it, he just mainly had broken props, I think. And I think he had broken props, and then I think his cover over his GPS module, I think that was broken or it fell off. But if you're in that group and you watch the video, at 1 minute and 11 second mark, you'll see, if you have it on a large screen, you'll see that something flies forward. And I believe his prop came apart, because what it looked like to me anyhow, it could have been part of his prop. Maybe his prop broke. So if there's a weak prop, fatigue to the prop, or anything like that, yes, it's very possible that could break and fly off during flight, especially these very thin, transparent props. I don't know if something could have flown in front of them, if a large enough bee or something like that could affect that. But it does appear to me in that video that something came off. You see it shoot in front of the camera real fast, and then all of a sudden he starts wobbling and losing control. So all his props were intact, just broken. So the prop didn't come off, but it very possibly broke loose. So things you can do: you make sure you use all resources that you have at hand. Record your flights with the quad's camera. Record every flight. That's good for you if you find the quad, to help prove exactly what happened. And a lot of this stuff is just obvious to people, but since I'm just not seeing it in the Anafi group, that's why I'm bringing it up. But record all of your flights with the quad. The other thing is, get yourself set up with a screen recorder. Android devices automatically record the screen. So the things you want to do is, if you have an iOS, it doesn't automatically have screen recorder. I think the very newest does, but the app is called Record It. Get that app. It's a free app, and you can record your screen as you're flying. So that way, if you do happen to crash, you lose your quad, you don't have it, you want to have proof. You'll have the full flight with all the data from the app on your screen recorder. That way you can share that with Anafi. And then the other thing too is, of course, your flight data. Don't forget that you have that. That's something that you can give. Most quads today have that, and I'm not just talking on Anafi here when it comes to doing these type of things. And then one thing we were talking about in my Facebook group today, the Hubston QC Help and Support group, is we were talking about location apps for locating through GPS. So I did my research and I went around and looked for different apps, and I found one that I downloaded some free ones, and I just really wasn't crazy about them. And I read the reviews; they kind of weren't that great. But there's one called Land Nav Assistant, and I think it costs $1.99. But basically, you put in the coordinates, and it just it leads you right to that exact spot. So if you have your screen recorder, you lose control of your quad, take your last known coordinates, put those into an app, or use Google Maps, whatever you prefer, and go locate your quad. So if you do all those things and have documentation, you'll find your reason. And like I said, I don't really think it's the latest firmware update. I think it's more of a compatibility issue between, say, an iOS versus an Android. So if people start posting crashed, fell out of the sky for no reason, whatever you want to say, make sure you put in what device you're using. And it's really helpful if you show the videos or any documentation you have, because your biggest resources or your biggest help in this situation are members of those groups. If you're going to post it and say it fell out of the sky for no reason and you have absolutely nothing to show, usually you just get a bunch of smart asses, for one, and two, it just becomes a discussion. It's not helping you find your quad. So that's my advice on all that. And number one thing I always say is do your calibrations. If you do a firmware update, do whatever quad it is, whatever calibrations they give you that you can do, whether it's Hubsan saying their version's called horizontal calibration, which is an IMU calibration. Do it. If it's compass calibrations, do it. Gimbal calibrations, whatever. Just do anything that says calibration, do it. You always want to do that after a firmware update. If you've had any heavy landings, bumps, light crashes, anything like that, do your calibrations. If you have the ability to do compass calibrations within your apps, depending on the quad that you have, and you switch to a major location, say you take a trip somewhere or you drive far away, just do a compass calibration to be safe, and know how to do all these calibrations properly. So look for videos. I have some for the Anafi, the FIMI, the Hubsan, Xeno, H109S, different various ones. I'm a big stickler on calibration, so I make sure I try to do the videos for all the quads that I have content for on my channel. So make sure you know how to do those calibrations properly. That's about it as far as calibrations go. And not very many people jumped in here. Hey, Bill Crawford. Thinking there's really nobody else that popped in. And this was last minute. It's so much easier just to go live when you make a video. So interactive DNA. I'm going to look through some of the comments here. Christopher H., are you having any issues with yours? And are you using, for your Anafi, are you using Android or iOS? Are you experiencing any of these problems that people are claiming? Cigar Nation Warriors, you're considering the Anafi. Let me tell you what, this is a great quad. I mean, I'm not saying that people are not having problems. I'm not saying they're, just making this up. They're obviously not making it up, but this is a really good quad. I have no reservations in recommending this quad. I love it. I think it is an awesome quad. I played with it a little bit today. My weather wasn't all that great, but just went out and flew one battery and had a good experience. Every flight so far with this has been a good experience. I did have to have mine replaced. I bought a refurb and the front legs started separating right here. They just snap in where the antennas are. I kept snapping it back in place and I got a little bit of fatigue in the plastic. And I contacted customer service for the refurb department from the seller that I bought it from, the warranty company, I guess it is. and they sent me a brand new one. So I got a brand new Anafi after purchasing a refurb. As you can see, I've added some stripes on it, added the caps. I just want to state these caps so far have been good. Just under 1.5 degree difference in temperature. They're just a tad bit warmer. That's nothing to even bat your eye at. And then I've added a gimbal cover on the front to further protect the gimbal. And I made it bright yellow on the end because I forget to take it off. So therefore, I hopefully see the bright yellow and I won't take it off. But yeah, I have no reservations in this. So Cigar Nation, don't consider it. Just pull that trigger. Go find a good deal and buy it. And the refurbs have been good. I myself and if you guys know Marcus Crawford, he got a refurb as well, and he's been doing well with his. So, same happened with the Bebops. Yeah, and you know it happens with all new quads. You're going to have issues with firmware and things like that. But anything that I've done testing for 2 years with Hubsan on a majority of their products. I did all focus on 501 firmware for the longest time, and trust me, I've seen some crazy stuff, and you know I have had some incidents because of firmware, but not just falling out of the sky. It's going to get something real erratic or something crazy happens, and you just you fight the good fight, and you either recover it and are able to land it, or you end up crashing into something. But all companies with new quads, there's always some sort of issues and problems with firmware, little bugs that need worked out. But I think the number one thing here is device. You know, what device you're using. Androids are much harder to make it compatible than iOS. iOS is just a one setup system. It's very easy for them to make that work. Android, you have tons of devices. If they just had one device running Android, it would be so much easier, but that's not the case. Parks and Rec, so far so good. We'll let you know if anything comes up for sure. Thanks for the heads up. I use nothing but Android devices. So Parks and Tech, you're using nothing but Android device, and you're having no issues whatsoever with the Anafi on the latest firmware. So I'm not saying, your one comment, rules out everybody else's, but the other question you have to ask is, are people doing these calibrations? So that's why I wanted to make the video, just to put out all the cautions, or, the precautions, take responsibility, have your quads recording, screen recording, flight data, and then, location apps, whether it be Google or a paid service, and, doing those calibrations. That's the key to success of having a quad. Also doing your homework when there is new updates, and decide if you're going to do that update or not. And then once you've done that update and done your calibrations, treat every test like a flight test. Just don't fly it, send it straight out there and think, oh, well, they said it's going to improve the FPV with this update. So then you send it straight up and send it out 1,000 meters, and something happens and you crash and lose your quad. Be smart, test it out. You do something major to your car, or put brakes on your car. You first get in the car, you're going to pump the brakes, you're going to make sure they feel good, make sure everything seems all right. Not a great scenario or comparison, but the whole key to this is just be smart. Take all the resources you have at hand and make them work for you. So I really wish I could have gotten out and flown more today. It was such a crappy day. I had all my stuff packed up, and which I did a little, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, I did a live today of me and my pity party. I've got everything packaged up in my cases, ready to go, and ready to do some YouTube videos for the Anafi, for the Fimi, for the Xeno, and just didn't happen. Clouds came in and eventually a storm hit. Does the Anafi have menu to check IMU condition? It's not that you can check the IMU condition, and they don't have, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's Nature Love. I'm glad you brought that up, because in the app, I could have sworn when I first got the Anafi back about a month ago or whenever, before I did updates to the app, I could have sworn it had a calibration in there for the IMU, but as I know now, it does not. I'm not connected to it, so I'm not going to get the full stuff, but I think it just gives you the compass calibration. I don't think it gives you an IMU calibration. And that's a very important key. I really should have that. Yeah, without being hooked up to it, I can't 100% confirm, but I am almost certain at one point it had it, and now it doesn't. It's just going from the little memory I have, but the Anafi definitely needs IMU calibration. But if compass calibration is your only calibration you have, just use it. Make sure you definitely do that after an update or crash or anything like that. And on the IMU calibration, also pay attention to your heights and distances. There was one guy's video I didn't mention. He hit return to home. He said he had it set for 20 feet or 20 meters. It came and returned to home at 10 instead of 20, and he hit the top of a tree and got stuck up in a tree. But I was watching his video, and he kept it flying very close to the ground, and he was probably about a foot off the ground, and he was reading negative in his meters. So he was definitely off. So that would be an IMU calibration. I don't know if it automatically does that on startup, if it does some sort of a IMU calibrate sequence. So it's probably a good idea to start your Parrot Anafi off on a flat surface. And if you do see that your values are off, put it on a flat surface, start it, wait for it to boot up and key up, and see if that resets to 0 on your height. And of course your pitch and all that. So that's the only thing I could suggest as far as that goes. But that would be a good feature that they have to put back if it was once there, but it definitely should be in there. And I'm going to wrap this up here soon, just so it's not a long video. Interactive DNA. You did not install the battery. I don't know what you're talking about there. I don't know if you're talking to somebody else or myself. I just want to help Xeno. Do I still recommend that you recommend the hubs? Or do I still recommend that you purchase the Hubsan Xeno? The Hubsan Xeno is at a purchase state now. It's where it should have been released. 1148, I think, is that's my preferred, and I think it's the majority of people's preferred firmware. As long as you're on that, the Xeno is a pretty decent quad. And let me tell you, compared to this, where you're having FPV issues, interference issues in high congested Wi-Fi areas, the Xeno, it doesn't have that. The Xeno turns its nose up to Wi-Fi interference, and it's extremely reliable, at least in my experience with not getting interference in a highly congested or high traffic Wi-Fi area. But I do recommend the Hubsan Xeno. if you can get it on the cheap. I think it's an under $300 drone. I wouldn't pay over $300 for that drone or quad. I think the Anafi is the best drone for filming. No other drone in the market is close to this drone. The Anafi is very good. I have no arguments with you there. Interactive DNA. The Fimi X8 SE is good too. It seems very picky on its micro SD cards though. No, my Anafi, if you're talking to me, interactive DNA, my Anafi is not dropped from the sky. I'm just reading all the posts that are in the Facebook group for the official Parrot Anafi owners group. And nobody's really given good proof for anything like that. So, which I'll just do a real quick recap when I close this video out here. Parks and Tech, you do your calibrations before every flight with every drone, always cautions. Yeah, and you know what? That's a good thing too. Parks and Tech says, does calibrations before every flight on every quad. It's not necessary, but it's a preventative. It doesn't hurt. But the important thing there is, again, make sure you're doing your calibrations right. Now, I'm not saying you, Parks and Tech, I'm sure you do them right, but so many people do their calibrations and it's like a race. It's like, well, let's hurry up and get this thing calibrated. Now, when it says turn it, keep it fluent, steady, nice and easy. Find good points to grab it so you're not fumbling with it. Hold it in areas where you can do nice, steady turns, and your calibrations go through faster because you're doing them accurately. If you're kind of wobbling around when you do it and racing through it, you'll notice sometimes the calibrations take longer to do. That's because it's trying to fight your jumble and what you're doing in a sloppy calibration. So yeah, it's okay to do calibrations before every flight, but make sure you know how to do them and do them properly. It's not a race. Please don't rush it. Parrot's goal is to keep everything user experience simple and intuitive. So there's cell voltage stuff will not be visible. What? Parrot's goal is to keep everything user experience simple and intuitive. So those IMU cell voltage stuff will not be visible to you. So are you saying they're taking that stuff away? Like right now, you still have the voltage readings per cell. So are you saying that it's their goal for you not to see that stuff? I don't understand what you're saying there. Everything will be resetting on boot up, even after landing it. Wi-Fi refresh itself. So that's something that I hope I do experience. I hope I do experience, my values, my params or values being off as far as my height. I would like to experience that with this quad so I can test the theory of IMU calibration if it does it a self-check on startup. Like say when you start up with some of the Hubsan quads, you want to start them on a flat level surface. Some of them, if you start them on a tilted angle or something like that, they do that boot sequence. They do that in the boot sequence, and then that throws your values off to think this is level, and it's going to fly like crap. So it's very possible the Anafi does. So I'll take your word on that, but hopefully it happens to me and I can verify it for myself. I'm shaking the camera here. I keep wiggling my feet and kicking the desk. Okay, so some of you are talking amongst yourself and I'm sitting here trying to make sense of it. You can calibrate it nice and slow, Christopher says, but the new Bebop update for you to race it or it will fail. So I think you're saying you need to do it quicker or it will fail. Really appreciate the work you do for the drone community. Thank you, Parks and Tech. That's very nice of you to say. The Anafi can be calibrated slowly. Yes, that's where I'm getting at. Flying with the Anafi, make sure you have the Wi-Fi off and the airplane mode on. I'm glad you said that, Interactive DNA. I do not go into airplane mode whenever I fly my quads. I turn Wi-Fi off and I turn Bluetooth off. I do that with all of them. I'm not saying that's a rule or what everybody should be doing, but I don't go into airplane mode. I just make sure my notifications are turned off, turn my Wi-Fi off, and turn my Bluetooth off. And that works perfectly fine for me. Now, for Android, maybe that's more important than it is for iOS. I don't know. But for my FEMI, ones I've been flying the most here lately for my FEMI, for the Parrot Anafi, and for the Xeno, and even for my Mavic 2 Zoom, I don't turn off. I don't put it into airplane mode. I just turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth. Okay, I see what you're saying now about the battery information. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, but I am going to just do a quick reminder on everything real fast, and then I'll give you a goodbye. Back to your comment real quick, Interactive DNA. I have seen no difference whatsoever. I've tested it as far as doing airplane mode and not. I've seen no difference whatsoever. I've had the Anafi to 1,000 meters, and that's about where I lose my FPV in a highly congested Wi-Fi area. If you watch my video on my channel showing that, there's a picture of a football field in the thumbnail. That was with Wi-Fi turned off and Bluetooth turned off, not airplane mode. But if I do it in airplane mode, it's the exact same thing. So, and that's in it's in a high Wi-Fi condensed area or congested area over top of my neighborhood and flying towards into the high school and all that. So I don't see a difference with it on my end. But like I said, for Android or some other people, maybe they do. I'm just saying on my end. I'm not telling everybody else what to do as far as that goes. I'm just saying my own experience. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So if there's anything I missed, I do apologize. I don't want to go on and on and on, droning on. All right, so again, take precautions, be responsible, and by doing that, saying that if you have a crash and it's falling out of the sky or whatever the situation may be, saying no reason. There's always a reason. You just need to use all your resources you have at hand to prove that reason. If you're posting in a group and you say you have a crash, if you have video, show that, because there's a lot of helpful people in these Facebook groups that can help you out and see something you might not have seen, just like the one I explained where the guy's quad was up in the air, started wobbling. Just before that, at the 1 minute, 11 second mark, you see something fly. He didn't see that. Somebody else pointed that out. So then I watched the video. I stopped it at that point and ran it in slow motion. And you could see it flying. And to me, it looked like his prop broke apart and flew off. So yeah, again, document everything with all resources you have at hand, and that's the quad's recording, which does you no good if you don't find the quad. But if you find the quad, you have the SD card to where you can, review it and see what happened and figure out what happened. Some some apps, have that, whatever you recorded on the quad, they have it within the app. That's something you can download and save. Your screen recording, make sure you always have your screen recording on your phone or your device while you're flying. Like I said, Android has them already built in. If you have an iOS device, the app is called Record It. It's a free download. And then don't forget your flight data. And also some quads have a find me feature, or find my drone. They have that feature where you can go and find it. If you have it, use it, test it, so you know how to use it. And then your location apps, you can use Google Maps, put your coordinates in there. It'll take you right to the point, or you can get free apps or purchase apps that you can put in the coordinates, and it'll actually lead you exactly right to it. So lastly, whatever calibrations your quad offers, do those calibrations. And that's it. So, hey, thank you to everybody who showed up on a last minute live. I usually tend to just do them last minute. And thank you to you who subscribe. And if you don't subscribe, hit that button and subscribe. Hit the bell for future notifications. Like I said, I've got everything packaged up for my Anafi, my FEMI, and then the Xeno. I've got some videos that I want to do with those. And eventually I want to get into more of the feature stuff as far as their features and things like that. But right now my focus is just kind of doing range flights and seeing how they handle with FPV and control responsiveness and all that. So hit that bell. You'll get future notifications when those videos pop up, which will hopefully be tomorrow with the weather. And that's it. So thank you, everybody, and have yourself a good night.